Hello everyone, and in this tutorial I will show you how to knit this strawberry sock. There are two sides to the strawberry, the top where we have the strawberries and the back where we have the checkered pattern. At the top of the sock we have these cherry buds. Don't they look adorable? And we even have a reinforced heel, so you don't have to worry about your sock wearing down too quickly. This is a beginner's tutorial and I will show you step by step on how to knit this. If you've never knitted before, that's okay. Follow this tutorial and you will learn how to knit this sock, knit with different colors, and even read chart patterns. I explain everything. Sizing and materials. This sock is one size fits all. Remember, socks stretch, so there's a lot of wiggle room when it comes to the sizing. To make the sock thin like a normal knitted sock, you want to use a fingering weight yarn, also known as 4-ply, using size 2.5mm double pointed knitting needles. That gauge is 32 stitches equals 10 centimeters. Because it's stretchy with fingering yarn, this sock is sized to fit any female adult foot and also men's feet. If, however, you have larger men's feet, you might have to keep knitting the toe a little bit longer just to lengthen the sock a bit. To make this sock a little thicker like a slipper sock, use size 4 medium yarn, Afghan, Iran, or worsted weight, also using size 2.5mm double pointed knitting needles. Using size 4 medium yarn, it's not as stretchy as fingering yarn, so you want to knit it tight to fit a female, or knit it with normal tension to fit a man's foot. To show you what I mean, here are my two sizes using 4 medium weight yarn. This one I knitted tighter, this one I knitted in a normal tension, using the exact same instructions, the exact same number of stitches. This one became smaller, it fits a woman's size foot perfectly. This one became larger, it fits men's size feet perfectly. Again, using size 4 medium weighted yarn, you knit tighter or knit normal to produce two different one size fits all for women or for men. It's as easy as that. The sizing options are up to you. This picture uses fingering yarn. And in this tutorial, I use size 4 medium yarn to make this sock. But it's all the same instructions. You decide what you want to do. You will need a cream colored yarn, no more than 100 grams. Green and red, less than 50 grams of each. No matter if you decide to use fingering or size 4 medium weighted yarn, I use 5 2.5mm double pointed knitting needles. They usually come in a pack of 5 anyways. Lastly, a tapestry needle to weave in the ends, and a crochet hook of any size that fits the yarn for pulling up drop stitches and reattaching new loops onto the needles. And that's all you need. Everything else I will show you. Once again, this is a full tutorial, so thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Subscribe for more knitting and crochet tutorials. I have a custom sized sweater you can make, table runners, custom sized doilies, and amigurumi. Hit the like button and I might have some additional patterns you can apply to this sock, so instead of strawberries, who knows what cool images I'll have in store for you to apply to your future socks, so check out my channel in the future for that. So here we have our knitting needles, and we're going to start off by casting on 72 stitches. So that means it's going to be 18 stitches onto each needle. You can do any cast on method you like. I like to use the long tail cast on method, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. So to start, we're going to take our first needle and we're going to take our yarn and we're going to wrap it around the needle 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Take it off and hold it there, and this is going to give us the length of approximately 10 stitches. So we're just going to multiply that 7 times, so just fold it over. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that's going to give us the approximate length of 70 stitches. So hold it here. 72 is close enough to 70, so we're good. Now what we're going to do at this point, we're going to do a slip knot. So you're going to hold it, twist the tail end here. The tail end, you're just going to pull it through to create a slip knot like that. And then you're going to stick your needle into it and pull the tail tight. And what I'm going to do is hold the needle in my right hand, take my yarn that's attached, that's the tail, hold it like this, in my palms, close it, take my thumb, apply it on top of it, twist. Take my needle, go underneath, hold it, take my yarn that's attached to the ball, wrap it around as if I'm knitting, take this loop here and pull it over the needle and pull tight. So that's 1. So now we have 2 stitches, 1, 2. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that again. Take your yarn that's attached to the tail, close it in your palm, take your thumb, let it rest, twist. Go underneath, hold the needle, wrap it around as if you're knitting, take this loop, pass it over, pull the tail. Okay, and when you go fast, it looks like this. So we're going to do a total of 18 stitches onto this needle, and then I will meet you once we're done 18 stitches. So here we have 18 stitches on our needle, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and we're going to take our next needle and put 18 stitches on this second needle as well. So how I like to do that is put 2 extra stitches onto this first needle, 1, 2, and slip those 2 stitches onto the new needle. So here's my new needle, just insert it like that and just slip it off onto this new needle, these 2 stitches. And those will be our first 2 of the 18 on this new needle. Okay, bring it over and pull tight, and then we're just going to continue casting onto this new needle. All right, 18 stitches, and that's how we're going to cast onto each of the 4 needles. So you're going to do a total of 18 stitches onto each of the 4 needles, which will give you a total of 72 stitches all the way around, and I'm going to meet you after you finish casting on your total of 72 stitches all the way around. Okay, so here is my piece I finished casting on, and this is what it looks like. You want to position your needles so that it looks like this. This is how we label the needles. This one where we finished our last cast on is needle number 1. This one is number 4. So the first one we did is number 4, the last one we did is number 1, and we just go in a circle. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, or in other words, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and that's how we label our needles. So we're always going to start on this end here, and we are just going to do the stockinette stitch all the way around, which is simply knitting all the way around. Because we're not working flat, we do not need to turn our work. We just keep going in a circle all the way around. Okay, so once you position your needles like this, this is the starting stitch that we first did, stitch number 1, and this is stitch number 72. Okay, so into stitch number 1, we're just going to knit. So let's begin. We're going to start off with our 5th needle. That's why they come in packages of 5, because when we work on the round, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th one is to work your yarn. So you're going to start off by going into the first stitch. So the way you knit is here's our first stitch, go in from the left, from the bottom and the left to the right and poke it through. One more time, from the bottom, the left, poke it through, make a cross, and you're going to take this, position it like this. So you're going to have the needle, I like to have the needle underneath the working needle that I'm working on. So this empty one is the working needle, and I like to have the previous needle underneath it. Take my yarn that's attached to the ball. The tail, you can leave it hanging, or just tie it up later. Take the yarn that's attached to the ball, wrap it around the working needle, pull it tight, and pull this yarn through this loop, through the first stitch like that. So shimmy it in there, okay, like that, and then slip this stitch off. So that's 1. The second one, we're going to do the same thing. So go from the left to the right, create a cross, yarn over, and then pull it through, slip it off. 2. So we're just going to continue knitting all the way around, like so, for a total of 10 rounds. All right, so the cast on round that we did, which is here, counts as row 1. this row that we're working on now with the new needle counts as row 2. So we're currently on row 2, and when we finish all the way around, we'll be finished row 2 and we'll begin with row 3. So we're going to do a total of 10 rounds all the way around, and I'm going to meet you at the end of 10 rounds. Now first let me get to this end here, and I'm going to show you how we simply work the second needle. So here we are in our last stitch on our old needle. We're going to knit it like normal, like that, and just slip it off. Okay, and you're always going to have 4 needles. So this was our old needle, you slipped it off, and now this is going to be our new working needle. Okay, so here's the next side. What you're going to do is just simply push your needle forward so that you have a small length. Okay, then I like to, once again, here's my working needle, I like to put the previous needle underneath it as I knit the new stitch. So here's my new stitch, I'm just going to knit it. And there you have it, and just continue knitting like so. So as I said before, continue knitting all the way around for a total of 10 rounds. We are currently on round number 2. Do a total of 10 rounds, and I will meet you at the end of 10 rounds. Lastly, you'll always know when the end of your round is because of the tail. Wherever the tail is, that's your last stitch, and the next one on the next needle is always the first stitch of the next round. So here we are at the end of our 10 rounds. This is what my piece will look like. If you pull it through, it just looks like basic knitting. Okay, all the way around. So here I am at the beginning of my piece, and now we're going to start off with our eyelet rounds. So the eyelet rounds are very easy. They just create these little holes, which we're going to use later on to fold the cuff over, which I'll show you. But to create that now, we're going to start off with a knit 2 together and yarn over, and that's just going to be the repeat all the way around for this round. So I'm going to show you. Insert, take your working needle, insert knit 2 together. So here's our 2 stitches. Go from the left of the 1, 2 of the first one here and knit them together. So you're just doing a knit stitch but together. So yarn over, knit them together both all at once. Like that, pull it through, and that's a knit 2 together, and that's a decrease. So to supplement that decrease, we have to yarn over. So we're just going to yarn over as if we're knitting, and then the next 2 stitches knit 2 together. Like that. And that's just going to be the repeat all the way around. And then yarn over, knit 2 together. And then yarn over. Knit 2 together, and yarn over. Okay, so that's going to be the pattern all the way around. Once you're done, you're going to do that for this round only, so just 1 round. Once you're done that, you're going to knit 3 rounds. So we have the round that we're on now, and then 3 more. 1, 2, 3. And at the end of those 3, I will meet you here. Okay, so do the next 4 rounds, and I will meet you at the end. Just a reminder, as you get to the end of each of these segments for this first row, when you do knit 2 together, yarn over, make sure after your last knit 2 together and you begin your new needle, make sure you yarn over. So just bring the working yarn over to the front before you do your knit 2 together, and that will complete your yarn over. As you can see, we have yarn over, knit 2 together. And again, just make sure you continue to have 18 stitches on each needle. So the yarn over at the beginning is going to be your first stitch, followed by the knit 2 together is your second stitch. At the first needle here, when you finish your last needle, you're going to yarn over, and then it's going to connect, and that last yarn over will be the 18th stitch of this first needle. Here I am after that first row of knit 2 together, yarn over, And just for some more clarification, the next 3 rows is to knit every stitch. So here I am at the end. I've done my last knit 2 together. So what I'm going to do is yarn over and begin knitting the first stitch. So remember, I yarned over and begin knitting the first stitch. And every stitch thereafter, all the way around. So the yarn over counts as a stitch that we are going to knit. So here's my yarn over. You're going to knit it like normal, just like that. Here's our knit 2 together, knit it like normal. Here's our yarn over, knit it like normal. Okay, so you're just going to knit all the way around for 3 rows. This is the first row, the second row, the third row. Okay, and remember to catch on after changing each needle. Remember to catch on these first yarn overs. Those do count as a knit as well, so remember to do that. And at the end, you're going to still have 18 stitches on each needle all the way around. So I'm going to meet you at the end of 3 rows. So here we have the end of my 4 rows. This is what my piece will look like. Okay, you have your eyelet rows. The eyelet rows create these little holes or eyes, hence the name. And then we have some 3 rows after that and creates this. So if it looks like this, you're on track. So we still have 18 stitches on each needle all the way around it. We're going to begin the next part. For the next part, we're going to start off with the color work, working on the chart. So if you've never worked on the chart before, if you've never done color work, it's super easy. I'm going to show you how to do it, and it's very straightforward. So for the color work that we're going to work now, it's this top part here, these little cherry looking things. Okay, so we're going to start off with the green, move on to the red. Let's begin now. So to begin the color work, we look at the pattern. So I printed the pattern out. Unfortunately, I am out of ink, but I did color in the part that we are going to be starting on with now. So you'll have a better picture of it on your screen in a moment, but just to show you, the way that this pattern works is it's divided into 7 rows long. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And each segment is 6 squares wide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so you work the 6 all the way around, just repeating groups of 6 all the way around. And then once you finish row 1, you work on row 2. Row 2 is this one, row 3, row 4, etc. That's how the pattern works. So that's what this chart pretty much tells you. So we're going to start off with number 1. And row 1 tells us that in the 6 that it has, the first one is green, and the next 5 are going to be in our normal white color. Okay, so each square represents a knitted stitch. All right, so we have 6 knitted stitches. The first one is green, the next 5 are white. And we're just going to repeat that all the way around. Green, white, all the way around. Okay, and also you look at the color work chart from right to left, and that's how you read it. Okay. And usually with charts, you can tell which way you start reading it by the number that the indicates. So in this case, 1 is on the right, so you start here, read it to left. 2 is on the right, you start here, read it to the left. Sometimes you'll have charts where, especially if you're working in the flat, you'll have it starting on the right, 1, and then 2 will be on the left, meaning that you start 2 on the left and read it to right. Then 3 is on the right to left, 4 is on the left to right. So that's how you read those. But this one, everything is on the right, so you don't have to worry about that. Number 1, right to left, starting with green. You're going to take your green. So the way I like to position my thing is I like to have the white yarn. So we're not going to cut anything. We're going to keep it all there. We're going to have the white yarn in front, the green yarn behind, like this. 1, 2. Okay? And when we pick it up and work it, it's going to be the same thing. You can position it however way you like. This is just how I like to position it. So because the first stitch starts as a green, the first stitch is a knit. So all the stitches are a knit, right? With this particular sock, we're working the stockinette stitch. So just like everything all the way around, it's just a knit stitch all the way around. Nothing is going to change there. So we're going to start off with a knit stitch. So instead of knitting with this white here, we're going to leave it. We're going to insert our needle as if we're going to knit, and then we're going to take the green and just wrap it around. Like that. And then push it through this stitch as if we're knitting. As if we're knitting like that. Okay, and take it off. It's going to be a little loose right now, but as we work a couple stitches, it's going to tighten itself back up. The tail, we're going to work in the tail. I like to work my tail in at the end of round 1 and at the beginning of round 2. That's where I work in my tail, so we're going to leave that there for now. And this is the working yarn. The white, we're going to bring everything like normal behind the needle. And the white we're going to work next. So the pattern says first one is green. That's what we just did. Here's our green loop. Next we're going to knit 5 white stitches. So knit 5 white. So keep the green working, keep it here. Take your white and just knit across. So you want to make sure that your white is going across the green. So don't go underneath the green, go over it. And when we cross it over the other color, it kind of locks it in. So it doesn't create these huge color changing gaps, which sometimes you'll see if you don't cross it over. So that's why crossing over when you're doing color work is very important. Okay, so I'm going to cross it over as I knit. Okay, and bring it off. So that's 1 stitch. So we called for 5 white stitches. So I'm going to do 5 white stitches. 3, 4, and 5. And then that is our first repeat of the 6 stitches in the chart. 1 green, 5 white. Okay, and as I said, just keep it pulled until we get it all snug. Next, we're just going to repeat, starting with the green and 5 white, and just repeat that all the way around. A green and 5 white, green and 5 white. And that's going to be the pattern all the way around for this round. So the next one, we're going to start off with a knit, but it's green. So again, you're going to leave the white here. So I only cross just the white color. So you don't have to cross both of them. You can cross just one color. So I cross the white and I leave it at front. And then I take my green and I this one over. You don't want to pull this too tight. Okay, you don't want to pull that too tight. If you pull it too tight, because it's a sock, we want it to give it some stretch. This will prevent it from stretching so much. So we want to keep it not loose, but just firm as we do our next stitch. And just knit it. And then this one will stay in the front. And then 5 white, we're going to take a white, cross it over the green as we do our knit. So here's our knit, cross it over the green, and knit. So as I said before, I'm only crossing the white one over. The color yarn, I am just having it lay flat, right? And that's going to give you a nice stitch, right? See this string here? See how it's so long? Sometimes, especially if you're making a sock, if it's any longer than this, you might accidentally get a toe or something stuck into here as you put the sock on, which is not what you want. Instead, if you find that the number of stitches in between each color work, so green here and green here, if you find that it's too long, and it's just going to be up to your personal preference. If you find that it's too long and something could get caught in it, you can also always cut it down and kind of pinch it off in the middle there to make these little gaps shorter. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. So let's say that I find that 5 stitches in between the 2 green is too large. To shorten it off, all I do is take my green and bring it over the white. Okay, so that's all I did. So here's my yarn. Take my green and bring it over the white, and then just knit my white like normal. So I did 3, and then I want to pinch it off here. So I brought the green over, and 4, and 5. And as you can see, the green was just brought over, it was pinched over here, and you don't see it on the working side, right? When it's closed off, you won't see it. It'll just be brought over, and you can see that gap is a lot shorter compared to this gap here where your toe could get caught into. So it's going to be whenever you want, you can always just pinch it in, and that's how you pinch it in whenever you're doing color work. So you bring the yarn with you over so you don't have these huge gaps. Okay, that's just a little tip. So after we've done 5 white, we go back to green. So here's my white. I'm going to lay it in the front like normal. Take my green and just knit with my green. And look what we have. We have two smaller gaps because we pinched it in the center as opposed to one large gap. And that's what our piece looks like. So that's going to be the pattern all the way around. Okay, just 1 green and 5 white. 2 and 3. Now just one more note. If you start to bring the yarn over and pinching it like this, the green yarn over, you'll find that your work gets twisted. Okay, so to prevent that, what I like to do is I just flip it towards me. So flip my piece towards me, and that'll twist it in the opposite direction. So when I twist it again over to pinch it here, it's not going to twist my work. It's going to keep my green yarn and my white yarn separated throughout for the ball. So I'm not going to end up with a big bunchy twisty mess. So it's good to keep yourself organized with that when you're working with multiple colors. But by working the yarn like this, you won't get your colors all tangled. So once you've done your first needle, you work on the second needle. The second needle again, just continue the pattern. So I did 5 white here. So the next one starts with a green. So I'm going to bring my green over. And then the next one is 5 white. Cross the white one over. Okay, that's what I do. So yeah, so you don't have to cross both the green and the white over whenever you change colors, because by just crossing over the white and keeping the green at the front and the white at the back, it'll keep both colors organized. And by flipping your yarn work over when you decide to pinch the green color so that the gaps aren't so large, also keeps your two colors organized. So that's how you work the color work. So I'm going to finish off this first round of the color work, and I'm going to meet you here where I'm going to show you how to begin the second row and how to work in that tail that we have over here. So here we are at the end of round 1. This is what my piece will look like. Okay, so these are my 4 sides. Each side has the color work on it. And number 4. Okay, and my green is at the top, my white is at the bottom, everything's organized, and here is my tail. So let's look at round 2, what it tells us to do. So here's my chart. For round 2, it tells us 1 white, green, 3 white, green, and that's going to be the pattern all the way around. If the first one is 1 white, we're going to knit 1 white. And once we get to the tail, then we'll start working it in. So once again, because my green is way over here and we have 6 stitches in between, that's a little too much for me. I'm too worried that someone's toe might get stuck in there. So I'm going to pinch it off now before the gap gets any larger. So I'm going to go into my first stitch, knit it, twist my work just so that my yarns don't get tangled. So after I twist it, I'm going to bring the green over and then yarn, knit with my white yarn, as per the instructions. That's going to keep my green organized and my white organized. This thing is so large because it's the tail here. It's just pull the tail tight. So here we have our piece. Now we're going to work in the tail. So here's our first stitch of the round, the white. Then it said to do a green. So now we're going to knit with the green. So into your next stitch, going to take your green and knit it. So at this same time, we're going to work our tail in. So all we're going to do is take the tail over the working yarn, which is the green, and just twist it over like that. And then work your green for the green knit. Like that. And you're going to do that for a couple of knits, maybe 3, 4, 5 knits. That's all you really need. So after the green, it says do 3 white. So we're going to rest the green, take your white, and start white. Insert your needle for your knit. Make sure your white is crossing over the green working yarn so that we prevent any color changing gaps to happen. And at the same time, we're working on our yarn. So take your tail and just twist it over this white here. And then knit. So that's 1 white, 2 whites, and the last one 3 whites. And at this point, the tail that I twisted in, as you can see, it's right there. It's worked in. I can cut it off now, or I can cut it off at the very end and sew the rest of it into here whenever you like, but it's pretty much secure now. You can leave the tail. And we're good to go. After 3 whites, the pattern tells us to do 1 green. So I'm going to take my green and just knit 1 green. That. Okay, and then that's the pattern. The 6 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're just going to repeat that again, starting with a white, cross it over, 1 green, 3 white,
1, 2,
3, followed by 1 green. And that's what we have so far. And that's the back of it, see? So it keeps the back organized, it keeps your 2 colors organized, and it keeps your front looking as it's supposed to. And then you double check your work here, making sure that everything matches. So you have 1 green from row 1, followed by a white in row 2. 1 white in row 1, followed by a green in row 2. Do we have that here? Right? We have 1 green from row 1, followed by white in row 2. 1 white from row 1, followed by a green in row 2. That's correct. So we're good. So keep following the pattern all the way around and you'll finish row 2. So you're going to work row 2, row 3, row 4. So finish up to row 4. Finish till the end of row 4, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to switch colors for row 5, starting with the red, okay? I'll meet you at the end of row 4.